What's going on, boxing fans? I'm back here with another video here set for you guys. First time ever in life, we are getting a boxing card, a boxing ring in Times Square, New York. Yes, every single time we think about New York, we think about Madison Square Garden, whether that be in the theater or in the actual MSG. We usually get the big events in New York, in that area, in that stadium, in that arena, but we are actually getting it in Times Square. Yeah, I am again going to repeat myself. A lot of people don't believe this, especially when this first was being announced by Turkey El Edik. But yes, this is something that is going to be happening in Times Square. So far, from what I know of, there's only going to be 3 fights on this card. They haven't came out with an undercard after that, so I think they're just gonna have these three going to Times Square because again, Times Square is a very busy area. If you've been in New York, if you're from New York, you know how it is. Very busy area, so I don't think they're gonna have a lot of people or a lot of things being out there for sorts and things about to be worried about. So they're gonna keep it sweet and short. Not gonna be a lot of people around. Obviously, there's gonna be a lot of people around. Don't know how they're gonna structure this out. But regardless of the fact, this is the card that they're giving us, and I believe it is an absolute banger card. We start off the card with Teofimo Lopez versus Arnold Barbosa. And a lot of people don't really know the name of Arnold Barbosa, but now with the build up and also of the recent victories that he's been having in his career, Arnold Barbosa is an undefeated fighter. He is really, really well versed in boxing. Has 32 wins. I think he only has like 13 knockouts. So he's not really known for being a power puncher. Even though he's not pillow fisted, I would go to that length. But he does rely a lot more on his boxing ability and boxing skills, keeping the ring generalship, having the jab, going really firm, forced in his type of style, unorthodox type of fighter that he usually is. So he gives a lot of problems to a lot of people. He's defeated, names such as Jose Pedraza, and as of recent, Jose Carlos Ramirez, who's also on this card as well, and Jack Catterall. And something to really take of note about those two last wins that he recently just got on his resume. It's been 3 months after both of those fights. So he fought Jose Carlos Ramirez. 3 months after that, he fought Jack Catterall. And 3 months after he just got off that victory of Jack Catterall, he's been going into this fight with Teofimo Lopez. So he's been very, very active. Don't know if he's going to be overtrained in this fight. But the way that he fights and the way that he carries himself, obviously as a professional, obviously financially, is something that's going to be very, very motivational for him as well. Fighting somewhat big names in the boxing game in the super lightweight division, that being the junior welterweight division, being 140 pounds. Arnold Barbosa, man, his style that he goes against, especially with a guy like a Teofimo Lopez, we already know who he is, the takeover. We've been through his career, through Top Rank, through ESPN. Teofimo Lopez, we know he has a great win early on in his career against Vasily Lomachenko, and then after that he lost to that close split decision with George Kambosos, where he got knocked down in the first round and he literally almost died after that fight. But the competition after that has been very wishy-washy, and the same that you can say about his competition, you can say the same thing about his performances. Very, very inconsistent. He got the TKO victory after the loss, like a year after, with Kambosos against Pedro Campa, who's a nobody. Recently, last time out, he got the victory over Steve Claggett, which was pretty much a beating of Steve Claggett. Steve Claggett was in there pretty much to just be a heavy bag in there, take punishment, did what he have to be able to do to get his payday. In my honest opinion, that's how he looked. There were some moments Claggett had his moments and he landed some good shots, but for the majority of the fight, Teofimo Lopez was taking over as he is with his alias. But, he has the split decision victory over Sandor Martin, which was very, very close, very, very boring. Teofimo Lopez looked bad in that fight. he, went to his corner, talking to his people, saying, does he still have it? But it hasn't been the greatest, but he has great wins over names like Josh Taylor, where he came out and was looking in peak prime form, that being of Teofimo Lopez, where the potential of Teofimo could be absolutely insane. He could be one of the best pound for pound fighters in boxing. He showed that in the Loma fight. He showed that in the Josh Taylor fight. Also, another great win for him was Jermaine Ortiz, who has a loss against Vasily Lomachenko, but he made that fight against Vasily, that being Jermaine Ortiz, very close, and I thought he made the fight against Teofimo Lopez very close as well. So, similar styles of Arnold Barbosa, I see as like a Sander Martin and Jermaine Ortiz. And in those type of fights against Teofimo Lopez, he has experience over these type of guys. He's gained experience over them and has gotten victories over them, but he hasn't looked good in them at all. He has trouble with cutting off the ring. He has trouble, really breaking these fighters down and getting them out of there. While Teofimo does has the power advantage, in my opinion, the boxing ability, IQ, and the way that he just goes in with his fights, especially with his head coach being his father, causes some issues, some bad talking to the corner. I believe he's been training with Eddie Reynoso as well, so I really am glad that he's starting to branch out of that of, having the head coach of being his father, getting some other expertise, been working with Canelo as well. So I think he's going to have some more improvements in his game. I think he's a more prime fighter. I think he's going to be, obviously, if somebody's going to catch somebody in this fight and get a KO victory, it would be somebody like a Teofimo Lopez. He is a slight odds favorite in this fight. But Arnold Barbosa, it recently has been going up better in competition, has the win over Jose Ramirez and Jack Catterall, where he just barely outpointed these guys. Well, in the Catterall fight, he barely outpointed him, did more, was more active, outfoxed him. And again, these type of styles have caused problems to Teofimo Lopez. Hence, which I mentioned therefore, Sander Martin, Jermaine Ortiz. This is just it's close. I think it's hard, but I think in this stage, in this area, being on this card, the pressure's on. You really don't want to lose this fight. I think Teofimo Lopez is gonna be with his head on straight, being focused, being ready, and is going to put on a great performance against Arnold Barbosa. But I do think Arnold Barbosa will cause a lot of issues to Teofimo Lopez. But I do think the work, training, and more experience against those type of fighters like an Arnold Barbosa, Teofimo Lopez will get the victory and get the victory by knockout. And moving on up the card to the co-main event, we have the return of Devin Haney versus Jose Carlos Ramirez, aforementioned before, who had recently in his last time out lost to Arnold Barbosa Jr. Jose Carlos Ramirez is going to be moving up in weight to the welterweight division, same as Devin Haney, same as the main event as well. Those two superstars that are headlining the card, that being Rolly Romero and Ryan Garcia. All four of these guys are going to be jumping up to the welterweight division now. And now the welterweight division, in my opinion, is going to be absolutely stacked. Thank God for that. But for Jose Ramirez, is a tough fighter. You kind of already know what you're going to get with him. Mexican style, moving forward, trying to brawl and sprawl in there, even though you don't know MMA. Has wins over Antonio Roscoe, Jose Zepeda, guys that are not really known as of right now, but when he did fight them, they were undefeated or had like one loss on their record. He did defeat Maurice Hooker by KO, has a win over Victor Postal. This is all before he had his fight against Josh Taylor, where Josh Taylor just completely outboxed him, made him look like a fool in there, even though Jose Ramirez had his moments sparsely, but he just got worked in that fight against Josh Taylor. That was Josh Taylor in his prime. But after that loss, he got the victory over a nice boxer such as Jose Pedraza, Richard Comey, Rancis Bartholomew. He was on a 3-fight win streak, was getting that confidence and momentum back to his way on a winning ways. And then, of course, he met Arnold Barbosa last time out, where he just got worked by a jab, was just completely outworked. throughout the entirety of the fight against Arnold Barbosa. So Jose Ramirez is a good fighter. Is not the same where he was, in my opinion, before, where he was uh, before the loss to Josh Taylor, and even with the winning streak, he wasn't the same type of fighter, but he was still putting on good performances. And then the loss against Arnold Barbosa kind of shows that he's out of his peak and out of his prime. And then, of course, you have Devin Haney, who is still quote unquote, you know, uh, parentheses, asterisk next to it, undefeated. But he got knocked down 3 times last time out against Ryan Garcia. We already know that whole story. We'll get into that in the main event talk, where he just seemingly, was looking really good throughout the entirety of the fight, was pushing Ryan Garcia back, was outboxing him and doing well, but got completely negated by a left hook. So if Jose Ramirez adds that to his tool bag, maybe he can beat Devin Haney. But you already know the resume that Devin Haney comes with. The win against Gamboa, Linares, Jojo Diaz, Kambosos twice, Lomachenko, Regis Prograis. The last time out he got rattled. His chin got tested. It's been a year out, good to recover, but he's going to be a little rusty, I believe, trying to bring off the cobwebs, trying to get away from the things that he was dealing with before in the Ryan Garcia fight, going into another fight against a Mexican fighter that likes to come forward very, very well, has his chin tested, hasn't been knocked out from what I know of, even though he has losses on his resume. Jose Ramirez, I think, is going to be a little bit reinvigorated in this fight against somebody like a Devin Haney. I think he's going to put out a good performance, because some of the performances before that, especially the Arnold Barbosa performance, was very, very lackluster from him. So I think he's going to be whipped up into shape, especially early in the fight, but I just think eventually we're going to get a great performance out of Devin Haney, who's obviously, I'm hoping, working a lot more. Devin Haney, we already know what we're getting from him. Is a great boxer, great jab, not a lot of power. Hopefully, with him jumping up into the welterweight division, and especially him growing into as a man, he can be able to develop some type of power. I don't think he's definitely going to get a knockout over Jose Ramirez, but I do think that he beats the living hell out of Jose Ramirez. I think Devin Haney is going to come back vengeful. He's going to want that rematch against Ryan Garcia and prove that he actually can beat Ryan Garcia. They've gone through it with the amateurs. He already has that stained no contest, quote unquote, loss on his resume. Just because that is taken off of your record doesn't mean that the public doesn't remember what you went through and what Ryan Garcia put you through. So, yeah, I think he's going to be very much reinvigorated in this matchup. I think Jose Ramirez eventually can be able to get through that jab of Devin Haney. I think that's going to be stuck into his face a lot. And I don't know if Jose Ramirez is going to get knocked out, but I definitely do think that he's going to be wobbled a few times here and there by Devin Haney again, even though we talked about Devin Haney being kind of pillow-fisted. I think Devin Haney is going to go out there, prove his point, and get a nice victory to potentially get into that rematch with Ryan Garcia. And speaking of Ryan Garcia in the main event, we have him and Rolly Romero. I think it's going to be a great matchup. I think that this is going to be the sleeper on this one. Both of these guys have both lost by KO to Tank Davis, so they have that on their resume. Ryan Garcia, you can argue the wagering, the rehydration clause against Tank Davis, but he still took the fight, got knocked down once, had a good round here and there, was, showing some flashes, but still very young, and eventually got hit with a body shot and got out of there. And Rolly Romero, I think, was really pressing forward, getting into that action against Tank, and eventually just got caught with something right on the chin and got put out. And of course, what we talked about earlier before with Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia is coming off a controversial win. I do think it is a win regardless what the records, what the commissions wanted to be able to say. He got the win over Devin Haney. Great, great display by him, honestly, with all the controversy and all the hoopla that he was bringing into that fight with, all the things what he was doing on social media, throughout the press conferences, and trying to be able to get in Devin Haney's head and really just make the fight where it was, where having it on the public stage, where it was literally a must-see fight, because everybody believed, especially with the loss that Ryan Garcia had against a Tank Davis, that, yeah, he did have a good performance against, I forgot who he fought after Tank Davis, moving up to 140. But he got a KO victory over him, and then with him not getting into the weight, and then after not getting into the weight, he was doing all these stuff that Ryan Garcia was just on another freaking level. But Rolly Romero, he got also after that, he had the controversial win over Ishmael Barbosa, where that being Barbosa was winning throughout the majority of the fight, and then Tony Weeks, for some reason, man, I don't. Boxing at its finest. That's the only thing that I can be able to add it up to. And then after that, he got into a matchup with Pitbull Cruz, and he got TKO'd in that, where he had his moments. He landed some nice shots. He landed some nice power shots. I really don't know how Isaac Cruz has like metal on his shin, man, because he takes some shots that are Jesus Christ, dude. And he took the punishment, that being from Rolly Romero. He dished out his own punishment, and Rolly Romero couldn't be able to take it as well that Isaac Cruz was taking it. So he eventually got TKO'd, got beaten up badly in that fight. After that, he had a matchup against Manuel Jaimez, who recently just fought against, I think, Abdullah Mason, and Abdullah Mason knocked him out too. But Rolly Romero, I think, took him to a decision. So Rolly Romero, is coming off a win, is a loudmouth, has a lot of power. A lot of people think he doesn't have any type of skill. I think he is a very skillful fighter. With the power and the skill that he has, he doesn't have the experience. He's still a young dude. I think he's only like 29 years old. Ryan is like 26, 27. So both of these guys are like young, almost too close to their prime as of right now. But matching up and how they compare, Rolly, his chin, he's just very chinny. He gets chin checked, and then he just goes down, man, or he gets hurt, he gets wobbled, and every time he matches up against a power puncher, that just seems to what is more than likely going to happen. Even though I do think Rolly Romero, as of right now, a lot of people hate on him, and a lot of people beforehand were overrating him. As of right now, he's kind of underrated in my opinion. Same thing, you could say the same thing as well with Ryan Garcia. He's very chinny. He's got knocked down twice in his career. Once against Tank Davis, and the other time that he had against his matchup against the UK fighter. His name is not coming to me as of right now, but he came off the canvas and he got a body shot KO victory over him. He got wobbled by left hook in the fight against Devin Haney, but took it on the chin pretty well, obviously because he was a lot more bigger in that fight. But yeah, I think it's going to be a hell of a fight. I think it's going to be very entertaining. But I do think that Ryan Garcia eventually is just going to catch Rolly Romero right on the chin. And when he does catch him on the chin, I think it's going to be pretty much over. Similar to what the Tank Davis KO was going to be that he had over Rolly Romero. I think we're going to get the same type of thing in this one. And obviously, like this video if you like this video. Comment your opinions on what do you think is going to happen on this card. Fatal Fury in, again, Times Square, New York. Headlining by all these young, hungry, talented boxers, man. I can't wait for this card to be able to come up. It is going to be an absolute banger, in my opinion. Subscribe, boxing fans, because I'm here. I'm always going to be here. And since you're here, why not, enjoy more of what is going to be able to come from this channel. Thank you guys again for watching again, and peace.